Hello, I really want to talk about the cult in Spooky Month and all that, and I figured I'd try my hand at making a video about it and share some of my theories. Disclaimer, I am obviously not an expert on the show. I didn't make the show. I'm also not like an expert on anything biblical, I'm gonna be honest. A lot of the things that I've read or whatever were specifically to further my knowledge of the lore here. That's actually basically all of it. So I am not an expert, and if you have any thoughts, I actually really do want to hear. I also kind of wanted to make this to open up discussion about the lore and about anything I may have missed, because I think that there are a lot of theories that I have that hold merit within the show, but I'm going to be missing something because there are still 4 episodes left in the series. But I still think there's a lot to go off of, and that a lot of these theories and things that I've noticed are important to the lore. So I hope you enjoy the video, and yeah. Let's get started. I am going to be getting into a lot of the lore, and I will try to explain the best I can. So my overarching theory about this show is that Skiddad learned of the end that is shown in Kevin's dream job, and that is shown in the book, the thing called literally Fear, and that he learned about it through, I think, Moloch specifically. I'll get into why I think that later, but I think they learned about it through Moloch, went to Eyes to make a deal to make himself immortal to prevent the end. I think that in doing that, he inadvertently started a self-fulfilling prophecy in which Eyes slowly consumed his soul and used that, and that actually is what caused the end. And I think that he ended up dying because he talked to the tree entity and learned how to put his soul into a new vessel, which I believe is the mannequin, and he did this and transferred his soul in order to preserve it and stop it from being further consumed and delay the inevitable, basically. I will get more into detail, but that is my overarching theory. I will get into what I think this means for future episodes in another section. So the first part of this theory is about how Skiddad learned of the end and how he became immortal. A lot of this was actually very influenced by a lot of the imagery used within the cults, because obviously there's a lot of biblical imagery within Spooky Month, and within the cult this is very prevalent, very obvious to see. But there was always one thing that seemed a little bit odd. The cult is very much in this metaphor, heavenly, and Eyes is also very heavenly in this metaphor, but despite all of this imagery, stuff in the Spooky Month 6 Hollow Sorrows, in the end credit scene for that, and seeing there's Eyes and Moloch and the cultists, and seeing that they are ascended in this art. I also think the thing that struck me as odd was that a lot of cult imagery seemed to actively be celebrating what is most likely the metaphorical equivalent of reaching for the forbidden fruit or knowledge in the Garden of Eden. If you look at the hospital, which is literally called Eden Hospital, that logo is literally a hand that is also the tree reaching up for the tree and the leaves and all that. There's on the door that is shown in episode 6, there's imagery of a figure reaching up for this tree, and this shows up so often throughout Spooky Month, and it struck me as odd for a while, because I was why is this being celebrated when this cult metaphorically is tied to the opposite of that? shouldn't it be, like, not celebrated within this imagery? There's like a dissonance here. But it got me thinking that there could be more to it. It got me thinking about what Skiddad might have told the cult versus what might have actually happened. So, my theory with the lore from the episodes, from the ARGs, from just things that Sr Pelo has said throughout the years of this show being around, I think that this was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I believe that he learned of this through Moloch telling him, and I think that this is actually what the scroll in the episode 6 ARG is about. I think that this is about him learning of the end. I think he learned about it from Moloch, and then because of this, he wanted to prevent this. For whatever Skiddad reasons that he would have wanted to prevent this, right? I don't know his motive, we don't really know a lot about him, but he went to Eyes of the Universe and was like, make me immortal, help me prevent this, help me do that. In this sense, like, Eyes of the Universe is literally shaped like a tree. Like, I think that specifically is very, literally shaped like a tree, has, like, stars all over, like, the, like, mushroom cloud looking bits, and, like, very, in it, like, an imagery sense, this all very much fits. So I think he went to Eyes of the Universe, metaphorically reached up for this knowledge, for this ability to be, like, more than human. And I think that in doing this and allowing his soul to be affected by Eyes, he opened it up to actually being the bringer of the end by his soul being consumed. I think that his soul is going to ultimately be consumed by Eyes until there's really nothing left of him, and he brings about the end. So we've reached up for Eyes in this metaphorical forbidden fruit in this scenario, and he learned of the end, and he got this knowledge, but at the cost of his soul eventually being consumed and starting this self-fulfilling prophecy. So what I think is that he started this cult, and he kind of posed himself as some sort of, like, savior or something or other, or, like, he started this probably for self-serving purposes of having sacrifices to appease Eyes and prolong the inevitable. That's what I would assume is why he started it, but we might learn more about that later on. I'm not too sold on that, but he started it, and he lied, and to the cultists it seemed like that he was immortal, and that he reached up for this knowledge, but that he learned of the end and was going to save them. I think that because of that, he is celebrated doing these things, reaching up for that knowledge, because that's what he told them. He told them that he reached up for this knowledge and this was how he was going to save them, which is not exactly what actually I think happened. I think this is what he told them. This is the narrative within the cult, and thus this is celebrated. This is why it shows up in so much imagery, because they're celebrating him for doing this thing that he said was a good thing. Which brings me to why I think that he disappeared. I believe that this is shown in the episode 5 book in the ARG, where it shows him talking to a tree entity of sorts in the forest, and I think that he went to this tree entity in an effort to learn how to conceal his soul in some way, and eventually learn how to do what would happen with, like, become in the mannequin, like he is in the episodes in the series. And I think that he wanted to do this in order to conceal his soul from Eyes and preserve it and stop himself from eventually being consumed, and at least prolong it, because I think that he was, like, making these sacrifices and doing this stuff with the cult, and I think that ultimately he was trying to buy himself time, but it was not buying him enough time, and he was almost out of time. And I think that because of that, he needed a better option, so he went into hiding, and his physical body died, and he is now in the mannequin, what I will get into later. and what the cult is going towards and like working towards. But like, he has been around for a very long time. He is the same exact age as he presumably was when like Skid was born, in the background of the photograph shown in episode 5 with like the adults as children. Like, he's clearly been around for a while. Something wouldn't just accidentally take him out. So I think that he very intentionally went into hiding to preserve his soul so that eyes would not consume it, and he could buy himself time before this like rapture or apocalypse or whatever you want to call it, but what is happening here. However, this brings me to my previous point. He lied to the cult. They don't know that he is dealing with this and that he is being consumed by eyes. To them, their like savior that has the answers on how to prevent the end disappeared and died, and now they need to bring him back to life and need to revive him or bring back his soul in one way or another. And I actually think that's why the thieves were in Leela's house 2 separate times. I think they were looking for like artifacts from him, or like something that his soul would be inside, which is probably why they were going for like artifacts, like things from Skid, like things that like are personal. I think that they were looking for his soul so they could bring him back. I think that that's what they're working towards, because right now they don't have a leader, and in their minds they will have to deal with the end without him, not knowing that bringing him back is the very thing that will cause the end of the world. I think that there probably are some like ties to like a biblical rapture. I don't really know a whole lot about that. Again, I am not an expert. If someone else knows more and would like to share more, that would feel free, go ahead. If I'm wrong about something, I apologize in advance. But I think that, back to Moloch telling Skiddad about this, I think that if this Earth and this universe is going to become hell in this scenario and the cultists want to ascend, this is good for Moloch, because then he gets the whole world to himself, basically. And I think that because of this, I think there's a lot of symbolism there, and thus they want Skiddad back so that they know how to survive through this and ascend to being more than human. And I think that they are going to work towards him to reviving Skiddad. Like, we know that Skiddad returns in the 10th episode. We see him there, and I think that like episode 9 will be them reviving him. I think that he will probably be revived somewhere in episode 9, but that episodes 7 and 8 are, I think, very much going to get into that. But they're trying to revive him so that they can prevent the end of the world, even though reviving him is the very thing that will cause it. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Which brings me to what I think is going to happen when he gets back. I think that like there are currently 6 children that are like main characters, like that are not there for like a bit or whatever within Spooky Month. There's Skid, Pump, Susie, and the Hats, which brings us to 6, and 6 children are talked about needing to be sacrificed in the cult in order to prevent the end of the world. I think that this is shown in the scrolls, and even on that door there are 6 children on that door. But that ultimately I think that we're going to learn more about that in episode 7, purely because they are the people that will be brought back and like will have to deal with the tree entity. I don't know exactly what this will entail, but I think we will learn more about this. But that I don't think it's actually going, I think that at least that this isn't going to actually happen successfully, only because I'm pretty sure that Sr Pelo actually did talk about having future episodes and then scrapping them because the story was over here. But if there were going to be future episodes, there would have to be a world for these future episodes to happen in, which leads me to think that something prevents this end of the world from actually being like permanent or going through properly. I have a couple theories as to why that is. It could have to do with, I think that there's going to definitely be a Pump versus Skid's father kind of thing going on, because like Skid's costume as a skeleton actually does echo the storm at the end of the world very, very like closely. Like, he's a black and white skeleton, and in the world, like in Kevin's dream job, he literally became a skeleton because all the life was sucked out of the world. And I think that Skid being a skeleton is a lot more than just, oh, I need to pick a costume. I think that it has to do with that very end, which then leads me to think back to like Pump's fascination with fire and his like orange color palette, and like the fact that him and Skid are so deeply intertwined. I think that there probably are some ties to Moloch there in one way or another, at least to an extent with Pump, and I think that that might end up coming up at some point. I also think that there is like Skid's costume being a representation of the end his father is going to create, versus Skid's costume being a way for him to match with like his other half. Like, I think that like conflict there, I think, might also pop up metaphorically. But yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about it. This is all very theoretical. I think that the seeds are sown for something like this happening down the line, or all sorts of stuff, but yeah. Anyways, these are just some of my thoughts about the lore. As always, if I miss something or you want to share your own thoughts about this, please do. I love Spooky Month. I would love to talk about the lore. Please share about the lore. I think this show's lore is super interesting and very fun to get deep into and really uncover. So yeah, I hope you liked the video. I've never done this before. This is just my phone's microphone, so if the audio quality is bad, no, it is not. Bye!